The last prisoner. The alien guards laughed as they walked down the cold metal hallway of the prison ship Zarnak 7. Their boots made sharp, echoing sounds. The lights flickered above them, but they didn't care. This ship was old, but it still held the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. At the end of the hall was a dark cell. Inside, a single human sat against the wall. Blood dried on his face, his hands were chained, his clothes were torn. His eyes were half closed, but they were watching. Always watching. "It's just one human," said one of the guards, shaking his head. "Why is he even still alive?" "Command wants to study him," the other replied. "They say humans are extinct now. This is the last one." "Then he's no threat. Look at him, weak, quiet." They moved on, laughing again. But the human heard every word. He didn't move, didn't speak, just sat in the dark and waited. His name was Captain Elias Voss. He was the last surviving human after Earth was destroyed by the Varelian Empire. They came without warning, burning cities, destroying ships, and leaving no mercy. Humanity fought hard, but they were outnumbered, outgunned, and betrayed by their own allies. Elias had been taken during Earth's final hours. His ship was shot down. He survived only because the aliens wanted to study him. They didn't think he was dangerous anymore. They were wrong. Every day, Elias studied the guards, their patrols, their patterns. He listened to their footsteps, memorized every sound. He counted the seconds between door clicks. He scratched tiny marks into the wall, numbers, notes, plans. He waited and planned for weeks. One night, the lights went out. It was just for 3 seconds, but it was enough. Elias stood up. His chains were loose. He had weakened the bolts. With acid stolen drop by drop from a cracked pipe, he had hidden a sharp metal piece under the floor. The camera outside his cell sparked. Then it died. A guard screamed somewhere in the distance. The ship's alarm blared, red lights spinning across the walls. "Warning, containment breach on level 9. The guards ran, but it was too late. Doors opened and closed by themselves. Security. Systems shut down. Someone was inside the system, and that someone was human. Captain Elias moved fast, like a shadow. He didn't run. He flowed. He knew where the guards would be. He had watched them for days. He avoided them, striking only when needed. Silent, quick, deadly. In one room, he took back a piece of his armor. In another, he hacked a control panel and sent false data to the command deck. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, 10 guards were down, 3 power cores were damaged, and the prisoner was gone. The high commander of the prison ship stared at the flashing screens. He couldn't believe it. "One human did this?" he asked. The officer beside him nodded, pale and shaking. "Yes, sir, he's not normal." The commander slammed his fist on the console. "I want him found, now." But deep inside the ship, Elias had already left. He was inside a cargo pod, hiding beneath crates. He held a stolen data drive with the ship's blueprints, alien weak points, and something more. A map. A map of the Varelian Empire. As the pod launched into space, Elias looked back at the prison ship. A small smile crossed his face. "They said I was the last," he whispered. "Good. That means no one else can stop me." The stars stretched in front of him. Somewhere out there was the heart of the Empire. The place where the war had started. The place he would end it. They thought he was broken. They thought he was weak. They forgot what a human can do when he has nothing left to lose. He escaped. Started with silence. No alarms. No warnings. Just dead silence floating through space. The Zarnak 7, the Varelian Empire's maximum security prison, was not answering any calls. For 12 hours, the prison ship had gone dark. No one knew why. Then a cargo pod drifted into the orbit of the nearby command station, Threx Outpost 91. It was small, damaged, and unregistered. Security teams opened it carefully, weapons ready. The pod was empty. Except For one thing, a sentence burned into the inside wall with a laser. I remember Earth. The Varelian officers stared at the message. Some looked confused, others afraid. Inside the command center, Commander Draxus smashed his claws on the table. "Find the prisoner," he roared. "Scan the system, search every rock, every shadow." An officer stepped forward slowly. "Commander, he's not in the pod. But we found something else." A screen lit up, showing images from the prison ship before it went dark. The hallway cameras flickered. Then static. Another camera showed guards, lying unconscious. One had blood on his neck. The final image was worse. A control room in flames. No sound. No sign of the attacker, but every sensor confirmed one thing. Only one life form had escaped. A human. Commander Draxus stared at the screen, his mouth twisted. "How?" he said. He was in chains. He had nothing. The officer hesitated. "Sir, maybe that was our mistake. We thought he had nothing. But he had time." 3 days earlier, Elias Voss moved like a ghost through the ruined tunnels of a forgotten mining ship. He had docked there after escaping Zarnak 7. It was cold, broken, and empty, perfect for hiding. He had food rations stolen from the prison ship, a stolen alien knife, a small toolkit, and the most valuable thing, a Varelian data drive. As he sat near a flickering light, he stared at a map of the Empire. Systems, fuel routes, weapon factories, hidden weak points. He memorized everything. Elias didn't want just revenge. He wanted collapse. He wanted the whole Empire to fall, piece by piece. But first, he needed transport, and he knew where to get it. Back to present. The mining station Verax 12 was supposed to be safe. Just miners, workers, no military. Then the power went out. Doors locked. Lights failed. The oxygen level dropped for 10 minutes, just enough to make the guards dizzy. When they woke up, their main hangar was open. A scout ship was gone. So was the fuel. So was the human. But he had left them a gift. Every camera destroyed. Every weapon disabled. And a new message, carved into the wall in clean alien script, one by one. Back on the command station, fear spread fast. Reports poured in. Outposts were going dark. Supply lines were cut. One by one, small stations were being hit, and in every case the attacker took nothing, except information. A fuel map, a soldier manifest, a security code. Each time, a human signature was detected. Just one, but he moved too fast, too quiet, too smart. Somewhere in deep space, Elias sat in the stolen scout ship. He had cleaned up, cut his hair, patched his wounds. But his eyes were full of fire. He played a message he had recorded from Zarnak 7, an alien voice saying, "It's just one human. He's no threat." Elias repeated the words to himself with a cold smile. No threat. Yet. He pressed a button. His ship cloaked and vanished. His next target, Soreth Prime, a key communication hub for the Varelian Empire. If he took it down, entire fleets would lose contact. The Empire would go blind. He didn't need an army. He needed only time and precision, and he had both. In the Varelian capital, the High Council finally met in secret. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries. But now, they whispered about a ghost. "A myth," one said. "He can't be real." "A weapon?" asked another. "A secret project?" "No," said a third, eyes wide. "Worse, he's human." Memory of Earth in the darkness of space. Elias Voss sat in silence, staring at an old photograph. The photo was torn, the edges burned. It showed a smiling woman holding a little girl. A man, Elias himself, stood behind them. His face was younger. His eyes were softer. That was Earth. That was before. He kept the photo inside a sealed case hidden in his jacket. He only looked at it before a mission, not to remember pain, but to remember purpose. He placed the photo back, zipped the jacket, and turned to the ship's dashboard. Target, Soreth Prime. Time to strike. 6 hours later, Soreth Prime, Communications. Hub Soreth Prime was busy as usual, bright, clean, loud. Aliens moved through halls, screens blinked with lights, ships landed and took off. This was the brain of the Empire's communications. No message, no order, no cry for help moved without passing through Soreth Prime. And that's exactly why Elias chose it. But he wasn't walking in through the front door. A maintenance robot entered through the waste tunnels beneath the station. It rolled slowly, unnoticed. Inside the robot's shell, Elias crouched, sweating in the tight space. He had hacked the bot 3 days ago, planted it on a cargo ship heading to Soreth. The timing had to be perfect. It was. As the bot passed under the central tower, Elias activated the internal override. The shell opened with a soft hiss and he dropped out, silent as a shadow. Within minutes, he had disabled 2 guards using nerve pins and silence rounds. He didn't kill unless he had. To death made noise. Fear did the job better. In the central chamber, engineers typed codes into glowing consoles. Messages from across the Empire flowed like rivers. Military orders, ship movements, troop locations. Suddenly, the screens flashed. Static. Then black. The engineers stared in confusion. One reached for the comm. It didn't work. A new message appeared on every screen in every language used by the Empire. We remember Earth. Seconds later, the main power grid exploded. Backup systems failed. Panic began, and Elias was already gone. In space, his ship recloaked and zipped away into the black. He didn't cheer. He didn't smile. This wasn't revenge. This was a message. Far away in a hidden rebel base on a dying moon, a group of alien prisoners saw the hacked broadcast. They were from races the Empire had enslaved. Broken, hopeless, forgotten. But when they saw the message, "We remember Earth," they looked at each other in silence. One of them, a small creature with 6 arms, whispered, "He's real." Another nodded. "The human, the last one." The seed of rebellion had just been watered. Meanwhile, the Varelian Empire was in chaos. Ships couldn't receive orders. Outposts were cut off. Admirals argued. Commanders blamed each other, and at the top, the High Council held emergency talks. "Shut it down," the Emperor ordered. "Shut everything down until we find him." "But how?" one advisor cried. "He is always one step ahead." "Then, we stop thinking like conquerors," the Emperor growled, "and start thinking like prey." Back in his ship, Elias sat in the cockpit checking his list. He had written it on old Earth paper in pen, a piece of history. Each target was a part of the Empire's machine. A planet, a base, a supply route, each one would fall. But not just by him. Because now the message had spread. Now the galaxy was waking up. He switched on a small recording. A voice from years ago. His daughter's voice, saved on an old device. "Daddy, will we ever see the stars together?" He closed his eyes. "Not yet," he whispered. "But they'll see you." In the far corners of the Empire, something strange was happening. Slaves began to resist. Old enemies of the Empire began to listen to rumors. Smugglers, pirates, even bounty hunters turned down credits just to say, "Have you heard?" The last, human lives. And with each whispered word, the Empire grew weaker. Not from weapons, but from fear. Fear in the throne room. The doors to the throne room hissed open. 4 generals stepped inside, their faces tight, their backs straight, but their eyes betrayed fear. The throne room was silent, not a sound. At the far end, the Varelian Emperor sat on a raised golden seat, surrounded by banners, statues, and guards in black armor. The air was thick and cold, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The generals walked slowly toward the throne. One of them held a datapad. His hands were shaking. The Emperor leaned forward. "Well?" he said, voice deep and sharp. The general didn't speak. He turned the datapad toward the throne. It showed a list. 13 military bases, all hit in the last 9 days. None of them destroyed completely, but everyone damaged, crippled, or left confused, each one hit by a ghost. A shadow. A human. The same message left behind every time. You burned my world. Now I burn yours. The Emperor stared at the screen. Then he stood. I want this human caught, he growled. Now, no excuses, no more mistakes. The room trembled at the sound of his voice, but one general stepped forward. He spoke slowly with caution. Your Excellency, we believe he's already inside the capital. The throne room froze. No one spoke. No one moved. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. How? The general gulped. We found a mark on the palace gates. The Emperor raised an eyebrow. A mark? The general nodded and showed a photo. It was simple, a symbol, a planet with fire drawn around it. Earth. 12 hours earlier, outer ring of the Varelian capital, a sanitation worker moved through the maintenance tunnels. His face was hidden. His suit looked normal, but beneath the mask, Elias Voss moved with focus. He had entered the most secure planet in the galaxy with a stolen ID and a broken code chip. It had taken 3 weeks. Careful planning, silent movement. Now he was here, in the Empire's heart. The Varelians had built their capital to be perfect, clean, beautiful, unbreakable. But they had forgotten something important. No place is unbreakable when you know where to look. Inside the palace, Elias placed a small black disc under the Emperor's personal shuttle. It was no bigger than a coin, a tracker, not a bomb. Not yet. He wanted the Emperor alive. For now. He needed him to watch everything fall. Then, like a shadow, Elias disappeared again. Back in the throne room, the Emperor was silent. Then he turned slowly to his guard captain. Search every ship, every room, every sewer drain. Find him. The captain saluted and left. But as he did, he passed a janitor wiping the floor. He didn't look twice. He should have. That night, across the capital, lights went out. For 1 minute, the entire planet went dark. No message, no sound, just blackness. When the lights returned, no buildings were harmed, no people were missing. But on every major screen across the city, a single sentence appeared. I walk your streets. Then everything returned to normal. In the throne room, the Emperor stood alone now, hands behind his back. For the first time in decades, he felt something he hadn't felt since the old wars. Fear, not because of the damage, not because of the power, outages, but because someone had touched the center of his empire and walked away, untouched. Somewhere on the roof of a nearby building, Elias sat watching the lights return. He had been inside the throne room already, twice. Not to kill, not. Yet he wanted them to feel hunted. He wanted them to realize this wasn't revenge anymore. This was war, and it had only just begun. The human strategy on a cold, dead asteroid floating in Sector 7G, a small fire burned inside a sealed cave. Above it, on a flat rock, dozens of tiny chips were laid out. Each, one stolen from a different enemy base, each one labeled by hand. And in front of them sat Captain Elias Voss, staring at a star map drawn in chalk across the cave wall. This wasn't war by force. It was war by design. Elias didn't have ships. He didn't have soldiers. He didn't have support. But what he had was understanding. He had spent his life studying how humans lost. Now he was using that same knowledge to flip the empire inside out. They don't know how to lose, Elias whispered to himself. That's their weakness. 3 days earlier, Black Site Echo 4, the Varelian Empire built Black Site Echo 4 in secret. No one spoke of it. It didn't appear on any maps. Inside were scientists and cruel machines, places where dangerous knowledge was kept far from the public. That's where the Empire stored what they feared most: ideas. Elias broke in alone. In 6 minutes, he stole files on experimental cloaking, rebel messages, and something worse: Project Ashwake. It was a secret plan to erase all remaining signs of Earth culture: music, art, voices, even words. Burned, deleted, forgotten forever. Elias stared at the file and whispered, "That's enough." When he left, the servers were fried. The scientists were locked in cages. The doors were sealed shut. He left behind one final message: "You can't kill an idea. Not mine." Now, back on the asteroid, Elias connected the final chip to his portable terminal. His fingers moved fast. The screen showed a growing network: stations, outposts, cargo paths, ship schedules. He didn't want to destroy every base. He wanted to break the logic behind the Empire. Cut the pieces that made everything. Work together, confuse them, delay them, force them to turn on each other. He activated a virus, a digital one. It spread into the Empire's network like wildfire. Ship IDs changed. Weapons failed. Friend looked like foe. The Varelians called it a ghost infection. They didn't know it had a name: human error. Meanwhile, Varelian battlecruiser Xandros captain Greel sat at the command of a giant fleet ship. He was proud, loyal, and angry. They had tracked a human signal to a mining station, but when they arrived, it was empty. Only one thing was left: a bomb. Source book, written in Earth's language. Title: The Art of War. He didn't understand the words, but inside was a line underlined in red: "Appear weak when you are strong." Suddenly, every screen on the ship turned red, then black. Then a human voice played, calm and steady. "This is not chaos. This is a lesson. You rule by fear. I fight with thought, and thought always wins." The ship shut down, drifting, blind, no enemy in sight, just fear. Back at the Empire's High Council, panic had turned into division. One general demanded bombing. 10 planets where rebel whispers were heard. Another argued to offer peace, fearing more systems might defect. The Emperor sat silent. He finally spoke one word: trap. He believed Elias wanted them confused, divided, tired, and he was right. But what he didn't know was that Elias had just made contact with his first ally. Somewhere in deep space, abandoned shipyard. Delta 3 Elias landed his scout ship quietly. Inside, lights flickered, machines creaked, shadows danced. A group of strange aliens waited for him, former slaves of the Empire. They had heard the message, they had seen the broadcasts, and they had come with a question. "Is it true?" asked the leader. "Are you the last human?" Elias looked them in the eye. "No," he said. "Now there's you, and anyone else who remembers what freedom feels like." He dropped a bag of stolen blueprints at their feet. "Let's build something they don't expect." As the stars turned overhead, the Empire looked strong, but inside it was already bleeding, and the human hadn't even started the final phase yet. The fall begins. It started with a sound, not an explosion, not a scream, just silence. On Veltrax 9, the Empire's strongest mining world, alarms failed. The command tower lights turned black. Then the gravity turned off. For 6 minutes, workers floated through the air, helpless. No weapons fired. No ships landed. But when the power returned, every Varelian officer was gone, locked in the prison cells they once controlled. Above the entrance gate, someone had scratched 3 words in the metal: "We are awake." That same day, across 4 different systems, Empire cargo ships vanished. No trace. No signal. On one empty ship, a video was left behind. Elias stood in front of the camera, his face half in shadow. His voice was calm. His words, slow and simple. "You are not losing control. You already lost it. The galaxy doesn't fear you anymore. It watches you fall." Inside the Varelian capital, riots broke out for the first time in over 100 years, not led by rebels, but by citizens. They were angry. They were tired, and someone had given them hope. The Emperor watched the protests from his private chamber. He crushed a glass in his hand without realizing it. His advisors shouted over one another. Plans. Dia's warnings: kill them all. Offer rewards. Cut off outer systems. But none of it mattered, because something else had just happened. Station Eltharion, one of the oldest military command centers in the Empire, had fallen from the inside. No human had attacked it. No ships had fired on it. The soldiers inside had turned. Rebel flags now waved over the towers. Someone had lit a signal fire into the sky, a burning streak of red that could be seen from orbit. And on every screen in the galaxy, a phrase appeared. D. Empire is made of fear. We just stopped being afraid. Back in deep space, Elias sat on a cliffside on the small moon Ixen's fall, watching the stars alone. He wasn't smiling. This wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. He opened a new message from one of his secret allies, sent in code. Translation: they want to meet. They want to fight. More alien groups had started to respond, old enemies of the Varelians, former traitors, exiles. Even some Empire soldiers had joined the shadow network Elias created. He didn't give them orders. He didn't ask for loyalty. He just gave them the tools and they used them. Somewhere in the Varelian fleet, Admiral Corax, one of the Empire's deadliest hunters, reviewed new intel. She stared at the screen. 14 bases, 7 fleets, 3 black sites, all gone. In 30 days. She looked at the final message. It's just one human. Her hands trembled, not because of Elias, but because she knew the truth. He wasn't alone anymore. In the shadows of a ruined world, a child played with a broken radio. The signal was weak, but a voice came through. Human lives. The Empire falls. The child turned to his mother. Did you hear it? She nodded. And for the first time in her life, she smiled. The fall had begun, not with guns, not with battles, but with a whisper, a message, a memory of Earth. Only one left standing. The Varelian palace burned in the distance. The golden towers, once symbols of power, now glowed red against the smoke-filled sky. The city was quiet, not from peace, but from fear. The people had stopped screaming. They were watching, waiting, because the last human had arrived. Elias Voss stood at the base of the throne steps. His boots left black dust behind. His jacket was torn. His face, scarred, tired, but focused. He had walked through enemy planets. He had destroyed systems without touching a weapon. He had turned their fear into fuel. And now he had come for the Emperor. Inside the throne room, guards pointed weapons at him, but none fired. Each one lowered their gun one by one and stepped aside. They knew. It was over. The Emperor stood alone at the top. His robes were ash-stained, his crown gone, yet his voice still carried pride. You think you've won, human? Elias said nothing. You've broken walls, stolen ships, spread lies, but you're still just one. Elias took one slow step forward. I was, he said. The lights flickered, and outside the palace, they came. Dozens of ships descended from the sky. Not Varelian, not human, a new fleet, built from rebels, traitors, ex-slaves, old allies, forgotten. Voices, flags from 10 different worlds flew from their hulls. Not one showed Earth. Not one showed the Empire. This was something new. The Emperor's eyes widened. This is madness. Elias walked up the final step. No, he said. This is memory, this is truth, this is humanity. He dropped a small black cube at the Emperor's feet. It hummed, a hologram blinked to life. Images played. Earth before the fall, cities, trees, children, laughter, music. The Emperor tried to look away, but the sound filled the room. It was human hope, human pain, human fire. The kind of fire that never dies. I didn't come to kill you, Elias said. The emperor looked at him confused. Elias turned away. I came to show you that you can't erase what you don't understand. Outside, the people of the capital gathered. They saw Elias step out alone and stand before them. No army behind him, just a memory, a message. That night, the Varelian Empire collapsed without a shot. The systems broke away. The fleets vanished. The leaders disappeared, and in the center of it all, one human walked out alive. Years later, on a quiet moon where green trees grew again, a group of children sat around a campfire. An alien elder told them a story. Long ago, there was a world called Earth. It was destroyed, but its spirit lived on, in one man. The children leaned closer. What was his name? One asked. The elder smiled. No one remembers for sure, she said. But they say he walked into the heart of an empire and walked out with the stars. The end.